5,000 sailors, one floating city, zero privacy. On a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, you sleep in a coffin-sized rack with 99 other people just inches away. Your shower? 2 minutes maximum. Your dinner? Served from an 80-gallon pot alongside 17,000 other meals. The flight deck above your head launches 50-ton jets every 45 seconds while you're trying to sleep. Welcome to life aboard America's most powerful warships, where the simple act of brushing your teeth becomes a strategic military operation. Life on a U.S. aircraft carrier isn't what you see in the movies. These floating fortresses are technological marvels, but the daily reality for the brave men and women serving aboard them would shock most Americans. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the incredible, sometimes bizarre ways sailors eat, sleep, and stay clean while living on these massive warships for months at a time. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to serve on these incredible ships, drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Let's start with something most people never think about. Where do 5,000 sailors sleep when you're stuck in the middle of the ocean? Sleeping arrangements, coffin racks, and no privacy. The berthing compartments on aircraft carriers are nothing like any bedroom you've ever seen. Picture a space roughly the size of a large classroom, packed wall to wall with bunks stacked 3 levels high. These aren't comfortable beds. Sailors call them racks, and the nickname coffin lockers tells you everything you need to know. Each rack measures exactly 72 inches long and 26 inches wide. That's 6 feet by just over 2 feet. The mattress? A measly 3 inches thick. But here's the really crazy part. From the top of that thin mattress to the bottom of the rack above you, there's only 20 inches of space. That's barely enough room to turn over without hitting your face on the bunk above. In older Nimitz-class carriers, enlisted sailors share berthing compartments with 80 to 100 other people. That's right, 100 people sleeping in the same room with zero privacy. The constant sound of snoring, people getting up for watch duty at all hours, and foot traffic makes quality sleep nearly impossible. The newer Gerald R. Ford-class carriers improved this slightly. Instead of cramming 180 sailors into massive berthing areas like the old ships, the Ford features smaller 40-person berthing compartments. It's still crowded, but at least there's less chaos. These smaller spaces are quieter, and sailors don't have to navigate through as many people to reach their racks. Storage space is another nightmare. Each sailor gets one small locker, roughly 10 inches by 22 inches by 41 inches. That's it. That's where you store everything you own for a 6 to 9 month deployment. Uniforms, civilian clothes, personal items, toiletries, everything. Some lucky sailors get a small bin under their rack for extra storage, but many don't even have that. And if you think sleeping is hard, try sleeping when the ship is conducting 24-hour flight operations. The USS Gerald R. Ford sits above one of the most dangerous work environments on the planet, the flight deck. Every 45 seconds, an F-18 Super Hornet weighing 50,000 pounds slams onto the deck at 150 miles per hour, caught by arresting cables with a sound one writer described as inconceivably loud. For sailors whose berthing sits below the flight deck or near the catapults, sleep becomes a tactical challenge. You learn to sleep through jet engines screaming at full afterburner just feet above your head. You get used to the violent shudder of the catapult launching aircraft. Some sailors go weeks without seeing daylight because they work below deck and sleep during the day. The noise never stops. A carrier operates around the clock. Even when flight operations pause, there's the constant hum of machinery, the sound of boots on steel floors, announcements over the intercom, and the general chaos of a city that never sleeps. But here's something most people don't know. Carriers operate on what sailors call the 30-hour day. Work schedules rotate constantly to keep the ship operational. You might work a 6-hour watch, sleep for a few hours, work another shift, and the cycle repeats with no regard for normal day-night patterns. Your body clock becomes completely confused. Despite all this, our sailors adapt. They find ways to make these cramped, noisy spaces feel like home. Photos of loved ones get taped to locker doors. Small personal items create tiny pockets of individuality in an otherwise uniform environment. The camaraderie in these berthing compartments is incredible. These men and women become like family, sharing the same challenging space for months on end. Shower facilities, the 2-minute race against time. Now let's talk about something even more challenging than sleeping: staying clean. On an aircraft carrier, taking a shower isn't the relaxing experience you know at home. It's a timed military operation. The shower facilities, called heads in Navy terminology, are shared spaces attached to the berthing compartments. On older carriers like the Nimitz class, these heads might be located down the passageway from your sleeping area. That means getting dressed just to walk to the shower, showering, and getting dressed again to walk back. You couldn't just throw on a robe and shuffle down the hall. The newer Ford-class carriers solved this problem by attaching a head directly to each berthing compartment. Each head includes 3 to 4 shower stalls, 3 to 4 toilets, and sinks. Sounds reasonable until you remember that 40 to 100 people share these facilities. Here's where it gets really interesting: the famous Navy shower. Fresh water is a precious resource on a ship, even though modern carriers have desalination systems that produce water from seawater. With thousands of people aboard, water conservation is critical. The standard Navy shower works like this: turn on the water and get wet. This takes about 15 seconds. Turn off the water. Soap up your entire body. Turn the water back on and rinse off completely. The entire process should take no more than 2 minutes, and you're using water for maybe 45 seconds total. Before we continue revealing more surprising details about carrier life, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing, but your support helps us create more content about our incredible military. It costs nothing but means everything. This 2-minute shower becomes a race. Sailors develop techniques to maximize efficiency. Some wash their hair while rinsing their body. Others perfect the art of soaping up at lightning speed. And when 40 people need to shower before the next watch rotation, you better believe there's an unspoken pressure to move fast. The shower stalls themselves are barely big enough to stand in. They're separated by metal panels, and privacy is minimal. You learn to shower with shower shoes or flip-flops because athlete's foot spreads fast in these shared spaces. The Ford-class carriers feature gender-neutral bathrooms, a design choice that created some controversy but offers practical benefits. Since the bathrooms can be designated for either men or women depending on who's assigned to that berthing area, it gives the Navy flexibility when crew assignments change. However, this meant removing all urinals, which take up less space than toilets. Some sailors joke that this decision caused more problems than it solved. Speaking of problems, the toilet systems on modern carriers have become notorious. The newer ships use vacuum-powered septic systems similar to airplane toilets. These systems are supposed to be more efficient, but they've caused major headaches. The USS George H.W. Bush had terrible toilet problems on its maiden deployment. The USS Gerald R. Ford has experienced frequent clogs, sometimes affecting multiple zones of the ship at once. During a 2025 deployment, sailors on the Ford dealt with overflowing toilets so frequently that some berthing areas had sewage on the floor that had to be mopped up. Imagine dealing with that after a 12-hour shift. The Navy blames sailors for flushing unauthorized items, but critics point out that these multi-billion-dollar ships shouldn't have plumbing systems that fail this often. When the toilets fail, sailors get creative. Some resort to using sinks. Others have admitted to using bottles and disposing of them overboard. Female sailors have developed health problems from holding it too long when facilities are out of order. It's not glamorous, but it's the reality of life at sea. The head also serves as a social space in strange ways. Sailors brush their teeth together, share grooming tips, and catch up on ship gossip while waiting for shower stalls to open up. It becomes a routine part of the daily rhythm. One sailor described it perfectly. You have no privacy on a carrier. You learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Eating. Feeding a floating city. If sleeping and showering are challenges, feeding 5,000 hungry sailors 3 meals a day is a logistical miracle. The mess decks on a U.S. carrier operate more like industrial cafeterias than anything you'd recognize as a traditional dining room. Let's start with the numbers. On any given day, culinary specialists aboard a carrier might prepare 17,000 meals. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and mid-rats. Midnight rations for sailors working overnight shifts. The scale is mind-boggling. In a single day, the galley might cook 1,600 pounds of chicken, serve 160 gallons of milk, go through 30 cases of cereal, and use 350 pounds of lettuce. The cost? Running the mess decks on the USS George H.W. Bush cost between $45,000 and $65,000 per day. That's nearly $2 million per month just for food. Modern Nimitz-class carriers have 5 galleys spread throughout the ship. The newer Ford-class carriers streamlined this to 2 main galleys, one forward and one aft. Each galley features massive cooking equipment that would make any commercial kitchen jealous. There are pots that hold 80 gallons of food, ovens large enough to cook for hundreds at once, industrial steamers for vegetables, deep fryers running constantly. The bakery deserves special mention. Fresh-baked cookies and bread help maintain morale during long deployments. That smell of fresh cookies wafting through the passageways gives sailors a small taste of home. It sounds simple, but these little touches matter enormously when you're thousands of miles from land. The culinary specialists wake up at 3 a.m. to start breakfast prep. They work in sweltering conditions because industrial kitchens generate tremendous heat, and they're often located deep in the ship where ventilation is limited. These sailors train extensively in food preparation, safety, and nutrition. They're responsible for keeping the crew healthy and energized. Storage is another fascinating challenge. When a carrier pulls into port, supply trucks deliver mountains of food. There are massive refrigerated storage areas, dry storage rooms, and careful inventory systems to track everything. The goal is to store enough fresh food to last as long as possible, because once you're at sea for weeks, fresh produce runs out. That's when canned and dried foods take over. Fresh salad becomes a memory. Meals shift to preserved ingredients. Sailors joke that you can tell how long a deployment has lasted by what's being served in the mess deck. The mess deck itself varies by ship and by rank. Enlisted sailors eat in large cafeteria-style spaces with rows of tables bolted to the floor. Officers have separate wardrooms. On carriers like the USS George Washington, there are multiple wardrooms with different levels of formality. Wardroom 1, called the Dirty Shirt Wardroom, allows flight suits and working uniforms. It's cafeteria style. Grab a tray, load it up, sit down, and eat. This wardroom primarily serves the air wing personnel who need to eat quickly between missions. Wardroom 2 runs more formally with table service and stricter dress codes. No dirty uniforms allowed. Officers sit together, and there's an etiquette to follow. These spaces reinforce rank structure and provide officers a place to decompress. One carrier has a Starbucks on board. The USS Carl Vinson features Chucky's Cafe, a genuine Starbucks licensed location. Starbucks representatives visited to approve the coffee quality. For sailors, this small luxury feels like winning the lottery. After weeks of standard Navy coffee, a real latte or cappuccino brings incredible joy. Meal schedules run continuously because the ship operates 24/7. Breakfast might run from 0600 to 0800, lunch from 1100 to 1300, dinner from 1700 to 1900, mid-rats from 2300 to 0100. Miss your meal window because of an emergency drill or unexpected work, and you might not eat for 7 or 8 hours. Sailors describe the frustration of standing in line for food when general quarters gets called. You drop everything and run to your station. By the time you're released, the mess deck might be closed. Some sailors keep snacks stashed in their lockers for these situations, though officially food isn't supposed to be stored in berthing areas due to pest concerns. The waste from these operations is staggering. Tons of food waste, along with other trash, gets disposed of daily. Historically, much of this waste was dumped directly into the ocean, though environmental regulations have tightened. Modern carriers compact trash and store it until it can be transferred to supply ships or disposed of properly in port. What about the food quality? Sailors have mixed opinions. Some praise the culinary specialists for doing an incredible job under difficult circumstances. Others joke that everything tastes the same after a few weeks. The reality is that Navy cooks work hard to provide variety and nutrition, but industrial cooking for 5,000 people will never match a home-cooked meal. Special occasions bring special meals. On Thanksgiving, Christmas, and other holidays, the culinary team goes all out. Turkey, ham, all the traditional sides, pies and desserts. The ship's senior officers sometimes serve meals to the crew on these days, a tradition that boosts morale and shows appreciation. For many young sailors, the mess deck becomes a second home. It's where you catch up with friends, decompress after a hard watch, and share stories. The long tables create a sense of community. Despite the challenges of carrier life, these shared meals build bonds that last long after the deployment ends. The unique challenges of 24/7 operations. Everything we've discussed gets exponentially harder because aircraft carriers never sleep. Flight operations can run for 12 hours straight. The nuclear reactors never shut down. Maintenance crews work around the clock. This constant activity creates unique challenges for eating, sleeping, and personal hygiene. Sailors develop a sixth sense for adapting to this rhythm. You learn to sleep through chaos. You figure out which showers are least crowded at 300. You memorize the mess deck schedule and plan your day around meal times. The phrase, "there's no privacy on a carrier," echoes through every aspect of daily life. You're never truly alone. Even in the rare moments when you find a quiet sponson or corner of the ship, you're still sharing space with 4,199 other people. That psychological pressure adds up during long deployments. Yet, our sailors handle it with grace and humor. They find joy in small victories. A hot shower when you expected cold water, fresh cookies in the bakery, a rare quiet moment on Vulture's Row watching the sunset. These men and women develop resilience that civilians can barely imagine. The older generation of Americans understands this sacrifice. They remember when military service meant hardship and discomfort. They appreciate that these young sailors volunteer for this life, knowing full well what they're signing up for. That respect and gratitude drive support for our Navy. Modern carriers like the Ford class have made improvements. Smaller berthing areas reduce noise. Attached bathrooms increase convenience. Better gyms and lounges provide quality of life upgrades. Wi-Fi enabled spaces let sailors stay connected with family. The Navy has learned that taking care of sailors' basic needs improves retention and combat readiness. But make no mistake, life on a carrier remains demanding. The confined spaces, the constant noise, the lack of privacy, the separation from loved ones for months at a time, these challenges test even the toughest individuals. Conclusion. The next time you see an aircraft carrier in the news, launching jets over some distant ocean, remember what we've covered today. Behind that impressive display of American power are 5,000 sailors living in conditions most of us couldn't handle for a week. They sleep in racks the size of coffins, shower in 2 minutes flat, and eat meals prepared in 80-gallon pots. These incredible men and women adapt to challenges that would break most people. They do it willingly, proudly serving their country aboard some of the most advanced warships ever built. That deserves our deepest respect and gratitude. The crazy ways crews eat, shower, and sleep on U.S. carriers aren't just interesting facts. They're testaments to the dedication and resilience of American sailors. They prove that the strength of our Navy isn't just in its technology, but in the character of the people who serve. If this video gave you a new appreciation for our sailors, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content honoring our military. These stories need to be told, and your support helps us keep telling them. Fair winds and following seas to all who serve.